Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to AllGo's Small Benefit Scheme Budget 2025 update. In this webinar, we'll focus on the changes introduced by the Budget 2025 to the Small Benefit Scheme and how businesses can avail of the scheme and reward tax-free. So the team, you've met me. My name is Rodrigo, Rod for short. I'll be kind of organizing the behind the scenes stuff and getting to the Q&A. And then in the panel today, you have Gary Purcell, AllGo's CEO. You have Joe Conan, the Chartered Tax Advisor. And you also have Laura Morrissey and Sorcha Hope, Orders Manager and Customer Service Manager for AllGo Mastercard. Today, just a brief content overview where introduction is pretty much done. We've done a little bit of it. Gary will take you through a little bit more, and then we're going to focus on the history and the stats of the small benefit scheme. So give you a little bit of context, the rules, the tax savings, which is probably the most important bit of it, and the enhanced revenue reporting and why you need to understand enhanced revenue reporting. And then we'll have a small overview of the AllGo Mastercard and why it's so good to reward through the small benefit scheme. At the end, we'll have a Q&A open to all. The Q&A function is on the bottom of the screen on your Zoom set buttons at the very bottom, so you can start asking questions at any time during the webinar, and then we'll review those questions at the end and try to answer as many as possible. That's it. I'll hand you over to Gary now, and he'll take over the presentation.
Thanks very much, and welcome to everyone for joining us today on the second of our webinar series on the small benefit and tax-free rewards for staff in Ireland. Great to see so many people on this webinar this morning. It's a record number of people on one of our webinars, so we're delighted. So this is obviously a topic that's seasonal, current at the moment, of course, with the budget over and the financial year coming to a close. And this is the peak season for gift cards and for B2B tax-free rewards in particular. So just very quickly about us, AllGo is a company that does a number of things, one of which is AllGo Mastercard, which we launched in 2016. We now service over 10,000 Irish customers a year, and so we're one of the leading B2B gift card providers for rewarding staff on the small benefit scheme. And we have 8 years experience of working with the small benefit and advising clients and providing clients with rewards that they can use for their staff. We're based in Dublin with 35 employees. We're a guaranteed Irish company, and we've two sister brands. One is Amplify, which is a new brand for our technology division, which does points-based employee reward and incentive schemes on a year-round basis, which if you're interested in, I'll be delighted to tell you more about, or you can head over to amplifysuccess.com. And we have an instant voucher website, our original business, allgifts.ie, which you can buy instant vouchers for multi-retailer vouchers for staff or for clients. So enough about us, straight into the small benefit scheme. And I think it's always interesting to look at the history of small benefit and see how it's developed, see where it's come from. It was actually launched in 2004, so 20 years ago this year. It was launched with a limit of €100. And I don't know if anybody like me is old enough to remember working in the 90s, but before 2004, it was sort of like the Wild West for employee rewards. There was no legislation around it. And if you remember bonus bonds back in the day, there was these paper vouchers that people were given for rewards, and they sort of weren't in the tax bracket. People used to get a good proportion of their weekly pay through these things, depending on the company you were working for. So finally in 2004, benefits and this sort of reward for employees was regularized, and the small benefit scheme came into existence. In 2005, the limit was increased to €250. So a single voucher for €250 in a year was the limit. And then nothing happened for 10 years. Until 2015, when the limit was increased to €500. So then it was one voucher, one gift card, one benefit per year to a max of €500. Then COVID hit, and in 2022, the limit was increased to €1,000, and the max number of rewards was increased from 1 to 2. So now you could still today reward up to €1,000 in 2 different vouchers, but combined to a max total of €1,000 over the financial year. And in 2025, the limit is increasing to €1,500 and 5 rewards. That was announced in the budget just at the start of this month. And that is coming to effect on the 1st of the 1st, so the 1st of Jan 2025. So still for this year, it's €1,000 and 2 rewards. Now, there is some lobbying going on in the background to see if that €1,500 can be brought forward and made effective from November, but that's not the indication we're getting at the moment. So it may happen. In mid-November, you might be able to give €1,500, but currently as things stand, it's not going to happen until next year. So we're looking at €1,000 and max 2 rewards for this tax year. That's the history. Just some stats, because I think it's quite interesting to look at this to see how big this thing actually is now. 67,500 is actually, I don't know if anyone wants to guess, but that's actually the number of businesses that are availing of the small benefit scheme each year in Ireland. It's about 2/3 of all Irish businesses now use the small benefit scheme. And it, like I said, it's increased hugely through COVID and since COVID with the cost of living crisis and the inflationary pressures that have been on, because it's such a tax efficient way to reward staff and to attract staff and retain staff in any business. 1.35 million is the estimated number of employees who receive rewards on the scheme every year. So again, a huge number of employees in the workforce in Ireland are receiving some level of reward through the small benefit scheme each year. So it's really become embedded in the landscape of employment in Ireland at this time. And 625 million, that's the spend on the small benefit scheme every year. So, you know, in terms of Irish retail, Irish hospitality sector, the economy in general, this is a massive injection in the arm, because these benefits are all spent in the Irish economy largely, and so it is a boost to the economy as a whole, and quite a large amount of money moves through the system every year. So I'm just going to have a quick poll, if that's okay, to get everybody into the swing of things. And the poll is, I just want to find out from people, how much on average, obviously you're on the call because you're interested in the small benefit scheme, but how much on average do you think your company will give on the small benefit scheme this year? So just a really quick poll, straw poll. We have stats from previous years. I'm just interested to see what people are looking at this year, given that the limit is still €1,000, say, what the figures are. So we're seeing a good response there. I wonder who's going to win out. What is the most popular level? We'll give it just a couple more seconds. Anyone else? A few more coming through. All right. So the results. If you can see those, I hope everybody can. So interesting enough, you know, the highest amount of respondents are saying that it's going to be the €1,000. So they're going to do the maximum reward available on the stream. So 34% are going to do that. 21% are going to do over 750 to 1,000. And then the next most popular after that is 250 to 500. So you can see that it is skewed up towards the max, actually, and nobody has been feeling very generous this year. Okay, that's really interesting. The average at the moment is somewhere just below €500, actually, interestingly enough, but we've got a much more generous cohort on the call today. So I just want to really quickly recap on the rules of the scheme. There are 4 key rules that you must adhere to in order to be compliant with the small benefit scheme. The first one is the maximum value rule. So the maximum value is €1,000. You can't exceed that. You can't give more than €1,000 to an employee in a year and still have it tax-free. And like I said, that's increasing to €1,500 from the start of January. That's rule 1. Rule 2, max 2 rewards per year. So you can give 2 rewards per year, increasing to 5 at the start of January, but that means that you can give 2 rewards up to a combined total of €1,000 in a tax year, which is January to December. So you can give somebody €100 reward in January, you can give them €900 reward in July, and both of those rewards will be tax-free. If you give €100 in January and €1,000 at the end of the year. That complete €1,000 is subject to BIK. So you need to be careful that you adhere to the rules here. No cash. You can't pay this benefit through payroll. So it has to be in a non-cash format. So, you can give any benefit you want. You can give flowers, you can give a hamper, you can give a product. But most of the time, what's happening is that it is a gift card that employers are giving. And there are lots of gift cards out in the market, lots of advertising going on at the moment. There's lots of choice out there. But employees tend to want the thing that's nearest to cash, that's not cash. And employers want to give the thing that's easiest to give to their employees that they're going to value and want. Again, but that's not cash, and that it complies with the scheme. And then the fourth rule is no salary sacrifice. So Revenue don't want you reducing somebody's salary in a month or in a week and replacing it with a tax-free reward. That's not allowed in the legislation. So I don't think many companies do that, but it's obviously not allowed. So no cash, no salary sacrifice. You've got a limit on the number of awards and the combined total of value that you can give to an employee in a year. They're the four rules. And then the tax savings. Now, these are based on tax savings from €1,000 and based on your marginal rate of tax that the employee is paying. And they're based on the budget for 2024, from 2023. So these will increase and these will change based on what was announced in October in the budget. So for next year, obviously with the gross reward max value going up to €1,000 and also adjustments in credits and etc., then these figures will change. We're going to publish an updated guide to the small benefit for 2025 at the start of next year. But for now, these are the figures that apply. The saving is between €393 if you get €1,000 on the small benefit scheme and you're on the lower rate of tax, up to €633 if you're on the higher rate of tax. Now, this is the conservative way of looking at it. If you gross up the value of the reward, then the actual saving is more like €1,300. If you say, I want to give someone a net €1,000 and they're on the higher rate of tax, well, through the payroll, that will cost you about €2,300. But through the small benefit scheme, it's going to cost you €1,000 and the employee will get €1,000. This is sort of the other way of looking at it, where if I give you €1,000, you're going to save €633 because you'll just get €1,000 in benefit. Whereas if I put it through the payroll system and I pay as an employer, my employer PRSI, as well as all the deductions from the employee, they'll end up with a lot less. So big savings here. And then on the size of your company, so obviously the more employees you have and the more employees you give these tax-free rewards to, the savings really start to add up. So, at 5 employees, you're saving nearly €6,000 currently. And at 100 employees, the saving is over €100,000 in terms of what the employee saves and what the employer saves. So these are significant savings that companies can make on the scheme. And it's one of the few income tax relief schemes and employer PRSI schemes that are out there in the Irish market. So that's why over the last few years, in addition to the increases in the limits for small benefit, that's why so many Irish employers have now switched on to this and are now using this as part of their yearly budget. That this is part of the thing we do. This is one of the main benefits that we give to our employees, and that's why it's so popular. Now, we do need to mention, apart from the 4 rules, there is a thing called enhanced revenue reporting. That came into effect at the start of this year. It applies to the small benefit, but it also applies to 2 other expenses that employees may receive from a company: travel and subsistence and the remote working allowance. Now, you may or may not be giving those to your staff, but if you give any of these benefits to your staff, so you reimbursed a staff member for travel and subsistence, or you pay the remote working allowance to your staff member as a benefit, or you give them a small benefit reward or a gift card, none of these are taxed. They're tax-free, but starting from the start of this year, you must make a return into revenue. Now, that sounds a little bit probably more administrative than it is. Most of the time, what this means is that it goes to payroll. So if we in this company give staff tax-free reward on the small benefit scheme, which we do twice a year in January and in July. Then in January, in the payroll, we list out who has received a small benefit reward and what the value of that is. It appears on our return to revenue for that month. It appears on the payroll, the pay slips of the employee. There's no tax on it, but it's just recorded. And that's a new thing. It has become, you know, a little bit more of an administrative burden, because previously you didn't have to make any return to revenue, and also you didn't have to report who was actually receiving the reward. But that has changed. But normally your payroll system or your payroll provider will do that for you, but you will need to provide them with the information in the month that you've given your employees the reward. So that's a change from this year. Okay, time for poll 2. And the poll that I just wanted to launch here is looking forward to next year. Oh, so I have to stop sharing that. So this poll is looking forward to 2025 with the increased limits. What I'm would love to find out is, what are people planning to do next year? Because with 1,500 euros instead of 1,000 euro, and with 5 rewards instead of 2, are you just going to do the same? Are you going to give more rewards but to the same value? Are you going to give higher value rewards? Are you going to do both? Are you going to give higher value rewards and do it more often? Or are you not sure yet what this whole thing is going to mean for you next year? So vote now, and I can see already there's quite a divergence in people's plans. So I'll just let that run for another minute. I hope everybody can see it. If anybody in the panel can't see it, give me a thumbs up, because I'm talking a lot and not knowing if anybody's actually listening. So you can see that? Okay, cool. So I'm going to end that poll and share the results. So the biggest number are actually not quite sure, or are just going to give higher rewards. So maybe if you were doing 1,000 euros this year, you're just going to do 1,500 automatically next year, which is great to see. 30% are going to do that. 30% are not sure. And then 16% say, yeah, more rewards more often and for a higher value. So that's interesting. So there's going to be a strategy throughout the year to maybe give rewards to staff, not just maybe at the end of the year, but to spread it out a bit, and to maybe use more of the limit that's there this year. 10% more give rewards more often throughout the year. So instead of 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 or 5. And no change is 15% as well. So, you know, lots of people doing lots of different things, and that's fine, because there isn't one right strategy here. It's really what companies feel is right and motivating for employees. Okay, so very quickly then, I'll just finish up by giving you just a quick plug for the AllGo Mastercard gift card. Most people probably know it already. So it's a universal gift card. It can be spent in-store, online, and abroad, wherever Mastercard is accepted. That's up to 100 million merchants worldwide. Many employees get it, and what they like about it is the fact they don't need to check where they can spend it. They can just walk into a coffee shop or into a supermarket, or they can go go onto Ryanair, and they can spend it on pretty much anything they want. They can't take money out of an ATM, obviously, because that would be cash, and that would invalidate the small benefit scheme. And these cards are single load gift cards. So you load them once with whatever value you want, give them to your employee, and they spend them. If you want to give them another reward, you give them a new card. Now, the card can be a physical card or a digital plus card. So a physical card, you go into a store, you swipe and sign it, or you use the digits on the back to buy goods online. The digital plus product that we have works similarly, except you can also add it to Google Pay and Apple Pay, so you can tap it in store as well. So physical and digital, we sell both, and it's still, you know, physical cards are still the traditional way of rewarding people on the scheme. It's still the most popular, but digital is obviously growing strongly as well. So I think that's me. I'll shut up for a minute and I'll hand you back to Rod. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for the presentation. We're now going to open our Q&A session. There's already a good few activity there on the questions. So if you have any questions about the presentation, now is the time to start typing them over. I'll give it a couple of seconds, and we can start and open up the questions to the panel. Let's pick up one here from Anne, for instance. Do you report to revenue the month the company buys the card, or the months you give it to the employee? Example, if you buy it in November and you give it at Christmas, when do you have to report to revenue?
I can answer that. It's the month you give the reward to your employee, because it's the month that the benefit is given. So not when you buy it, which is different sort of from in the past. You just had to buy it in the year in 20, say in December, and that would satisfy the small benefit scheme, but there was no reporting. But now it's the month that you give it to the employee. Strictly speaking, you're meant to report it before you've given it to the employee. But from my experience, it's the month that you give it in that you put it through your payroll.
There was one there from Alexandra, which I think Joe already responded on the chat, but I think there might be other people with that same question, which is, do you know, can directors receive that from multiple businesses, or do they need to only get it from one?
The response I put up there on it, you're allowed up to 1,000 a year, so you can't be getting 1,000 from multiple employers, even if you have multiple employments. And I would imagine that's probably one of the key reasons why they've introduced that mandatory reporting, so they can now track effectively in real time who's getting benefits and how much they're getting and from what sources.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe.
Joe, that's actually quite hard, right, for employers to know if something, or maybe the director will know, but for employers to know if they've got a reward from another employment.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of it was really grey before enhanced revenue reporting came in. It was a really grey area. You couldn't really, you couldn't say it definitively, but now I think you're right. It is reported. So yeah, it probably strictly speaking is not allowed, and it is reported to revenue, so they'll know about it.
Yeah, and that, like, whatever leeway you get from revenue, if there was different unconnected employers, you'll get no leeway with them if you're a director over multiple companies and you're taking multiple, you're giving yourself multiple vouchers because they say, well, you knew this was happening. You might have a case if you're a completely separate employer and say, well, I had no way of knowing, and I asked the employee and they said they weren't getting a benefit.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Gary. So I'm going to bundle two questions into one here. It's about the AllGo Mastercard. So one question is, can we post physical card directly to our to the employees of the company? And when ordering, do they need to give the names of the employees? That's a common question that we get. Who wants to take?
I can take that one there.
Perfect.
So we do have a few different delivery options for the MasterCard, and one is individual delivery. And we just do require a minimum of 10 cards to be ordered at that time. And the cost of that would be $3.50 per card recipient for us to send out to individual addresses. And then the second part of that question is, do we need the employee names? And we would, since the 1st of October 2023. We do just require individual names to go against each card that's being ordered.
Just one more thing there on that, Laura, is that there's another question here is, do you have to have the PPS numbers attached when submitting that?
No, that's not anything that we need. It's usually just first name, last name, and then an email address if they want a digital card, and then just the amount. But that's all that we would require for the employee details.
So the PPS number isn't needed by us, but it is needed on your enhanced revenue reporting. So yeah. But it's not our requirement. That's for revenue. But for us, it's just first name, last name, email address if it's digital, and individual address. Sorry, company address if it's if you're just delivering it in bulk.
Perfect. Another common question that I see pop up in here is, we have physical cards from last year. Can we use them again this year?
No, unfortunately not. We're just a one load only card. So you would have to place the order again for new cards.
But the validity of the cards is 5 or 6 years, so they can be still spent and used. You just need to be careful with the €3 deduction per month on any unused balance after 12 months. So those cards might be depreciating, but they can, obviously they're still good to spend.
Still on the cards, if we opt for the Digital Plus card, is there a transaction limit on using this card?
No, there's no transaction limit. I know that a lot of people had this issue with One for All Digital in the past, and our Mastercard Digital works differently. So the limit is the limit that you would find on any Mastercard. So it's higher if you have it on your mobile wallet, because then Google Pay and Apple Pay determine what they're happy to approve. So the limits are high. I don't know if there's a definitive number, but you can spend hundreds of euros by tapping your card through Google Pay and Apple Pay. And if you have a physical card, you can't tap it anyway. So, but you can just swipe it through. There's no limits on spending. So, also if you use either of them online on on a website, on an e-commerce website, there is no limit. You can spend the whole card in one go, digital or physical.
Donald is asking, I think this one's for you as well, Gary, is asking, is the ERR submission the company's obligation or AllGo's?
That's a good question. We have no relationship with revenue whatsoever, apart from our own employee stuff. So we don't make any return to revenue. Revenue don't come in here asking us to share details with them. I guess maybe they could. Maybe the legislation allows them to. So that's completely up to you and your thing with revenue. For us, the main thing that we have to look out for is not actually revenue, but is the Central Bank of Ireland, because our cards are regulated in Ireland. Our cards are issued from Ireland. The money is kept in Ireland. This is not the same with every gift card out there. And so they impose regulations on us, and we have to adhere to them. And one of those regulations is that we have to take employee names, and you can't have anonymous cards anymore, because that was an anti-money laundering and fraud and terrorist risk. So we have to follow the regulations from the central bank. In terms of revenue, that's the company, that's you. But we'll advise you. Obviously, we know the rules, and we'll tell you exactly how to stay compliant. But the onus is on our clients to make sure that they are compliant or not, as the case may be.
So an important question here that I'll open to the panel as well. As an employer who buys the gift cards, how do I pass the information to the revenue? Is it through payroll software? So I think that's more about the ERR and how that reporting is done.
Joe, can you speak to that maybe? I think I know the answer from you.
Yeah, so it would be generally through payroll software, yeah. Most payroll software is when new legislation is coming out, the technical team in revenue and the payroll people generally sit down and work through how the requirements are going to look and how it's going to fit in with their different software packages. So any software that I would have seen, and I suppose most people would use software nowadays, those enhanced reporting requirements are all part of the software package. And when you're making your monthly submission or your weekly submission, your fortnightly submission to revenue, that all gets it's a PSR is the document that you're filing with revenue, and that all gets included as part of the PSR.
Nelly actually talks about thesaurus. I don't know if you know the software thesaurus and if you know if it has the capability or not.
I don't know thesaurus and I don't use thesaurus, but my understanding is that thesaurus would be one of the leading payroll providers out there. So I would be very surprised if they didn't have it.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, two more that we'll bundle up in terms of ordering cards. How does pricing work for ordering cards, and what is the cutoff date for ordering for Christmas? Important questions.
I can answer that one. So the cutoff date for ordering for Christmas, we're still just waiting to confirm our courier collection dates of what their final pickup date is. But I'd imagine that would start on Monday, the 16th of December, within that week. But I would encourage you that the earlier that you place the order, the better chance that we'll get your order out with better service, better turnaround times. And so if you do know the details of who you're sending cards to, for Christmas bonuses, I would just encourage try to get your order in mid-November, December, and you'll be happy that you have the cards and we'll get the order out a little bit better. So, but we will have it up on our website what the final cut-off dates will be once we have that fully confirmed.
So that, and I think, Laura, just to add to that, the digital product, you'll be able to order a few more days after physical one because of the differences in delivery, because that's delivered directly by email. So that'll be a few days after the 16th. The issue is that we cannot process any cards, physical or digital, until the funds are paid into the settlement account. So therefore, the delivery times are based on when you pay your invoice and when we receive the funds, rather than when you place the order. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And you must pay your invoice by bank transfer this year. We're not doing credit card payments anymore. It was actually a slower process and a more manual process and more frustrating for customers. So therefore, you need to give it a day to receive your invoice and pay overnight by SEPA, so that we receive the funds and can process the cards. And that applies to digital or physical. And then we dispatch cards, physical cards by DPD, so it's an overnight delivery. And our standard lead time is 4 working days to get the cards out. So there's an express order option as well. And for email, obviously, there's no delivery, but it can still take a few days to process the cards after we've received payment. And the other thing just to highlight as well is that from the 9th of December on, so the 2 weeks immediately prior to Christmas, that is when companies who order from us at that point in time can get a little bit frustrated, because it's hard to get an immediate response by email or by phone call if you want to change your order, if you have an issue or a question about your order. It works fine. We're processing cards away and they will get out the door, they will get delivered, and that's fine. But if something goes wrong and you need to change something and you want to talk to somebody, you want to email somebody, you want an immediate response, the 9th of December onwards is what we call the red zone. And after that, you're not going to get the same level of service than you will before the 9th of December. So I say this every year, but it doesn't change the fact that a huge volume of orders still come in those last 2 weeks. Fair enough. But the flip side of it is, like Laura said, if you put your order in November, or if you get your order in before the 9th of December, you will get a better service. And there's very little we can do about that, because we already have an extra 25 people working 7 days a week at that point to get cards out the door and answer queries, but we just can't handle the volume of queries that come in on top of the orders. It's just impossible for us to manage. So we just say to people, get it in before the red zone, before the 9th of December. You'll be very happy with the service.
Yes, perfect. One that another question here that is repeated is, can I gift it to clients? And then Gillian says, I suspect it to be good to give gifts to clients.
Yeah, well, you can give gifts to clients, but it's got nothing to do with the small benefit exemption. So it's a completely different area. So you can give gifts to clients. How you give gifts to clients is up to yourself. The small benefit exemption is for employees. So
Yeah,
Joe, is that client gifts, is that subject to gifting laws, or is that personal gifts, or is there anything for companies to give gifts to third parties?
Generally wouldn't be subject. Well, you see, you have a €3,000 exemption every year anyway, as the small gift exemption. But generally, I suppose people who would be giving gifts to clients, is it, and suppliers. Yeah, that would be generally seen really as a form of advertising. You see people who'd be referred work, and they, if you were to buy a client a bottle of wine or a hamper, or give them a hamper at Christmas, I mean, to me, that would be in the same vein as that.
But the gift tax laws is where I can give anyone personally, I think €3,000 a year without them paying tax. That applies to individuals rather than businesses, does it?
That applies to individuals, yeah. That's an individual to an individual, yeah.
Okay, so companies, you're saying more than likely it's a marketing cost, simple as.
Well, it generally would be a marketing cost. I mean, you get your bottles of wine at Christmas, or you give your bottles of wine at Christmas, and that would be generally put down as a marketing cost. What view revenue would take of it? I mean, down through the years, you'd be involved in different revenue interventions, and they would look at that, and you would tell them on what basis was a marketing cost, you're getting referred clients or whatever else. And I wouldn't have personally seen revenue making any issue of it. Now, I suppose it's down to the scale as well. I mean, if one particular client in a business is getting a very significant, we'll say, present at Christmas or something like that, I would imagine you want to have some sort of a business case as to why they were getting X and everyone else was only getting Y. But I haven't ever seen it being an issue. But you know, it's nothing to do with the small benefit exemption.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. One more that I see repeated here is what happens if I buy vouchers or cards and the employee is no longer working for us? So I think it has to do with the name being assigned the names there.
Yeah, I can get that. So we do kind of get that question a good bit. If a person purchases the card and then obviously the employee leaves, or yeah, that they no longer have an employee to award that card to. We do have a system in place that will allow you to rename the card. So it involves, you'll contact us, ask us to unload the card. There is a fee of €10 for that process, and we'll put the card funds minus that €10 fee back into what we call your client wallet, which is where that's your settlement account that you would pay AllGo into. And from there, you can place a new order with the correct or the new employee name and use the credit you have in your client wallet against that order. You will also have to pay the new order fees, so the card charges and delivery if you're going for physical, but that is definitely an option that we can do if you come into that scenario.
Perfect. Thank you, Sorka. Another question that I see here is other card providers offer employee discounts for buying in bulk. Is that something we do?
So yeah, we have a sliding scale to do with the fees, but not on the card funds. It's not possible and probably not even legal to discount the funds that go onto your MasterCard. So what you're talking about is single retailer gift cards, which sometimes you can get discounts on. And that's fine. And the deal is that they can be spent then in one retail outlet, and that's fine. But with MasterCard gift cards, there's no discounting on the funds. Like I said, there's a sliding scale to do with the card charges, which go from €5 down to 0 when you buy each card. But the funds are the funds, and they are loaded directly onto the card, and they cannot be discounted.
If I'm ordering for my company, can I buy some physical cards and some virtual cards in the same order? And just lumping up another question on this one, on the back of this one, what is the lead time for card orders?
I can take that one. So we would request that if you're placing an order for physical cards and virtual cards, just to place them separately, because it works off two different spreadsheets. For example, for digital cards, we would need email addresses. And just to make sure that, like, attention to detail, that everything is correct, we would require just the two separate orders to be placed separately. Obviously, the earlier that you place the order, you can contact us directly and we can help you in setting up these two orders. If you wanted to let us know you wanted to combine them, we can split them up on our side. But obviously, the closer to get to Christmas, the less likely this would be able to happen for us to do that. And then the second question, Rod, would you mind repeating that? Sorry.
So the second question was, what is the order lead time?
The lead time, sorry. So for standard orders, from payment receipt, it'd be 4 days for physical card delivery, and for express orders, it'd be 24 hours dispatched from our payment receipt. But again, just obviously the closer we get from the 9th of December, we will be pushing closer to those lead times. So again, just encouraging to get the orders in early as possible.
You touched a little briefly on these already, Gary, but it's a recurring one as well. Is there a limit to use the card, and are there annual charges?
So no limits to use the cards, digital or physical, either in store or online or by tap if you have a Digital Plus card that you've added to your wallet. No limits. So you can spend it all in one go, or you can spend a minimum amount. That's fine. Are there charges? Is it after? Are there cardholder charges? Is that the other question?
I assume so. There's again another question on that, which is you touched the 12 months charge. So I think that's in relation to that.
Well, yeah. There are 3 charges that a cardholder can have. One is if you spend your card outside the Eurozone, which you can, because with MasterCard you can spend it in any currency. There is a 2.75% fee, foreign exchange fee on the transaction if you buy, so say you're buying something on Amazon in the UK, which actually from next year on you won't need to do, but if you are, then you will pay that exchange rate fee. If you lose your card and need it replaced, there's a fee for that, which is €20, which is deducted from the balance that we send out to you in a new card. And the third fee, which affects more people, I guess, is after 12 months, if any unused balance, there is a charge of €3 per month deducted from any unused balance after 12 months until your card is fully depreciated, which can take 13 years or more. So those are the three charges. Yeah, that's it for cardholders.
Lily has a very interesting question, as there's a little bit of complexity to us. So if I gave 2 cards to an employee at the beginning of the year, the total so far is only €600. Can I give them another card until they get the limit of 1K, €1,000? Or how the limit on 2 cards work here? Is that the case? Like, so is it?
No, it's a black and white answer to this.
Okay.
You're gone for this year. You can't give that person any more cards until or unless they increase the limit on the number of rewards you can give from 2 to 5. So if they actually do that in the finance bill, which will be published in about 10 days time, or the final bill will be passed in 10 days time, if they bring the 2025 increased limits forward, then you will be able to do that, to give them another gift card this year. But as things currently stand, it's a max of 2 cards and a max of €1,000. So as if you hit 2 cards, it doesn't matter if those 2 cards are €5 each, you've used up your limit. If you use 1 card of €1,000, you've used up your limit. So it's either or. And then from next year, it'll be €1,500 in the 2025 tax year, and it'll be up to 5 cards within that. So any way you want to do it, 1 card of €1,400 and 4 cards of €25, that's fine. But 1 card of €1,600 will be subject to full BIK. So you just need to be careful. But that question is black and white.
Perfect.
Unless they bring forward the new limits into this year, which they said they wouldn't.
So just to give a complimentary answer, an anonymous attendee gave us an answer on the thesaurus question earlier on. It does ERR, and also it can be done through Bright Expenses. So I'll thank that user. Can we buy cards this year with a higher limit and give the voucher in January 2025?
Well, my understanding is yes, you can, because it's the month that you give the benefit out. Joe, is that anything?
Yeah, I just answered that to somebody. Yes, it's the month you give the benefit out is the month you report the benefit to revenue. So if you're reporting it to revenue in January because it's the month you gave it to the employee, well, that's a new tax year.
Again, just catching up here some more. Does the employee need to register the card on our website before use, similar to One for All?
Yeah, so for the physical cards, you will have to activate them on allgogiftcard.com before you are able to use it. So that's just a security measure to make sure in the time that we dispatch your cards to the time that the correct recipient gets them, that the funds are still secure on those cards.
Another user wants to know if he's right in saying that all vouchers then must be notified to RAWs now.
Well,
yes. Oh, sorry.
No, I think that what they're asking there is reporting it to RAWs, reporting it to revenue. So it's back to this enhanced reporting requirement for revenue. So that's generally is getting filed onto the ROS system. So I think that's the question that's been asked.
Yeah, it doesn't have to go directly onto ROS though, does it, Joe? I mean, we pay the payroll here through your company, TRA Professionals, and so what we do is send you guys a spreadsheet, with all the employees every month. And if there was a small benefit given out, there'd be an extra column that says, here's the amount that each of these people got for small benefit, and then you process the payroll. I don't know if you use ROS or use the payroll software that then ultimately feeds into ROS, but.
Yeah, we would use payroll software, and once the payroll has been filed with revenue, that the enhanced reporting is part of that payroll filing. and it just gets filed automatically. Or automatic is probably the wrong word to use, but it gets filed. It gets filed through the ROS system. There's a connection. We would have what's known as a TAIN link, tax agent link with ROS. Some people might just have their own direct ROS link. So you're making the filing through the payroll software onto the ROS system.
But I remember at the start of the year, Joe, when we looked at this with revenue, if you filed your own payroll directly into ROS, there is a facility in ROS to report small benefit. And actually, they had a really handy video on the ROS system or on the revenue website showing you all the screenshots and all the steps you had to do that in ROS. Yeah, so you can do it directly in ROS if that's how you're doing your payroll yourself.
Exactly. You can file everything manually, we'll say, onto the ROS system. You can go in, there is a facility there to add in your payroll, add in your small benefits, do all your reporting on it. I would just find it a lot handier to do it using payroll software, because it just kind of keeps it all in the one area, and it's all getting filed correctly.
Another question there, does an employee have to have a certain amount of service time or a certain salary scale to avail of the benefit?
I can take that. Oh, sorry, Joe. Go on, Joe. You got to see if we have the right same answer.
No, it's just a question that came up, I think more in relation to directors. So I can kind of maybe, because it's there a few times now, I've answered one or two of them. So there's no minimum salary requirement. And if a director is getting a benefit or an employee is getting a benefit, they do have to be an employee and they do have to have an employment contract in place. But there is no mention of a minimum salary. But they would need to be getting some salary.
Perfect. A small business owner, how does it apply for the small benefit scheme? So what do they have to do?
Well, in a nutshell, you order a reward, you get the reward in as the company, and when you give it to your employee, you report that to revenue through your payroll. There's no tax. So as a company, you don't do a special return. It's just an expense to you. It's an expense to the company. It's an overhead. You report it though, so that the benefit is recorded that your company or your business gave this employee this tax-free reward at this time. And that's all.
Owen wants to know, when using the card, can you tap? Can you use PIN or swipe and sign? Or swipe and sign is the only way it can be used.
Yeah, for the physical cards at the moment, it's still just the mag strip, so it is a swipe and sign card. It doesn't have a chip on it. The Digital Plus cards, as it is like a virtual product, and you would load it into your wallet, your Apple or Google Wallet on your phone. It does allow payments through contactless by tapping your device on a card reader in store, and then both of the card types can also be used for online purchases too.
Perfect. Is there a maximum preload amount on each card?
Well, there is a technical preload max of about €2,500 technically, but if you load more than €1,500, you're going to be at the limit of your small benefit exemption. So, the vast majority of our clients are loading up to the limit, which is €1,000 now, €1,500 next year.
So Christine wants to know, if I gave €100 Ryanair voucher to an employee in January, can I still give an AllGo voucher of €900 without being taxed?
Absolutely, yeah.
And that goes back to the maximum of 2, right? Go some more questions here. If a director did not receive salary during the year but is listed as an employee, can they receive a benefit tax-free?
Like, again, I think that's going back to a question that was asked before. I mean, revenue would use the term of bona fide employment. So somebody is an employment contractor and they're an employee and they're not receiving a salary. Like, you're probably digging a bit of a hole for yourself there if you're going to have to try and explain that to revenue. As we said earlier, there's no minimum salary. So I would suggest that you pay some level of salary.
We've answered those.
Rod, there was one I saw here, and actually it is asked quite a bit,
Yeah,
which is to do
take it
with
away.
paying bonuses, and can you pay a portion of an annual company bonus through the small benefit in order for that portion to be tax free? I see Joe answered it here, and that's our understanding as well. Yes, you can, as long as the bonus is a discretionary bonus and not part of your remuneration. Because if you remember, one of the rules is you can't salary sacrifice. So if I've got it in my contract that I'm paid, 2,000 euro bonus every year, I can't put that through small benefit. But if the company is going to pay me a bonus and it's 5,000 euros as the bonus, I can put the first 1,000, and it's not guaranteed. I can put the first 1,000 of that through on a gift card, and that'll be tax free. And then the other 4,000 would go through payroll, and it would be subject to all the normal taxes. And in fact, that's what a lot of companies do.
Jerry is asking, is it the employee responsible for registering the card, or the employer's responsibility?
Yep, so it's the employee themselves. They're the ones that the card is linked to, and they'll be able to set up their own account with their own details and activate the card themselves and then use it themselves. So we wouldn't recommend employers doing that on behalf of their employee, just because in the long run, the employee will be able to log back into their account, check their balances and transactions, and just have that accessibility.
And then also sort of add, if they get further cards next year or another, 5 cards maybe next year, all of those can go into their one account and they can manage them all in one place, isn't it? So it will be, as companies give out maybe more cards next year on the small benefit scheme, it's really important that people have their own personal, AllGo Mastercard account so they can manage all their cards in one place.
Yeah, I did see also a question a bit earlier about someone inquiring they gave their staff the AllGo Mastercard last year. So the staff created their accounts last year. Those accounts will still be accessible this year. So they can log into those existing accounts and add their newest cards. It's just that we did launch our new cardholder website in October of 2023. So if it was just before that cutoff date, they may have to create a new account. But afterwards, that account is still accessible. They can just log in.
Yeah, one question about envelopes here. Rose wants to know, she always pays as AllGo cards for Christmas, orders for cards for Christmas. Is there a place on the website that shows the envelope size, so they can know how many to buy in bulk for Christmas?
Well, the gift cards, the physical gift cards all come in an envelope already. A DL size envelope with the employee's name printed in the window, because they come in a wallet that's like a DL size, and there is a picture of that in the on the order page and also on the pricing pages on the allgogiftcard.com website. So I'm not sure she'll need her own envelopes.
Yeah, I think she wanted to combine a few orders into one maybe, and get like a bulk big envelope, so we can ship on any envelope size really, right?
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, like, so every individual card comes in an individual DL envelope, but depending on the number of cards, if they're physical cards that you're ordering, they'll either go in a padded envelope up to a certain quantity, and after that we put them in boxes and they get shipped out to you in bulk. And then, you take them out, but ultimately you'll end up for your employees with a bundle of DL size envelopes with the employee name on them.
Yeah, one more question here. If I ordered 15 cards, but only ended up giving 10 to employees due to performance, what do I do with the remaining 5 cards?
Well, you can spend them for your business expenses if you like, or you can return them to us and we'll replace them, but there's a fee for that.
Perfect. And we won't get to all the questions, unfortunately. We're just getting very close to time. So before we go, I just wanted to say that everybody is going to receive an email in the next day or two with a recording of the webinar, our small benefits pack, information pack, where you have all the details about the small benefits. You will also receive an AllGo Mastercard brochure where you can have all the questions about AllGo Mastercard. And we're going to combine all the questions that weren't answered and some of the ones that were asked more often. And we're going to do a LinkedIn Live event on Friday, the 1st of November. So you're all welcome to join that on Friday, where we're going to go. I'm going to ask Gary those questions, and Gary is going to answer them for you. And it's an interactive event as well on LinkedIn. So follow us on LinkedIn and join up. You can also get answers for all these questions, most of these questions in the AllGo gift card, and we'll add to our FAQ as we find questions that are asked very often. We'll be adding to our FAQ those questions as well in the near term. So yeah, thank you very much everybody for attending. Thanks you to the panel for all your answers and all your participation, and I'll see you again on our next